Welcome to Divine Chaos. Here we have no scripts, no filters, anything goes, and that's the way I roll. I'm Krista, I'm your host, and I'm super excited that you're here. Today, we're going to be talking about manifestation. Whoop, 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 whoop. Have you ever done it? I've done it. I didn't know I was doing it. I'm sure there's many of times that you didn't know you were doing it, but you were doing it. It's pretty awesome. So today, I want to actually run through it. I want you to walk away with that feeling of, oh my gosh, this is possible. Because I'm going to show you how. Stay tuned. I did not grow up in a woo-woo world by any means. I grew up in a middle-class family. It was very old school, very old school. 70s, 80s kids, like I was never ever taught or encouraged to dream. So you fast forward 20 years, I'm out and about on my own, obviously, and so here I am. I just got laid off from a major corporation, moved down the hall in the same building. I'm now self-employed, working with a team of men in sales. So that's a whole nother podcast about masculinity with the feminine one. Anyway, back to this podcast. That group was very beneficial for me because it was teaching me how to expand my mind, right? Like they were huge on personal development. Back then they called it self-help. I loved it, actually. I couldn't believe how much support there was out there. There was this one book that I had read that began this whole thing for me. It was The Power of Your Subconscious Mind. Phenomenal book. It's written by like 7 different doctors. I was reading this book right around the same time as we were heading into a new year. What do salespeople do? What do pretty much a lot of people do in our world, in our society, around New Year's, right? We set New Year's resolutions. So this is back in December, in the very beginning of December, and we're having our meetings and everything like that, and they're like all right, you need to get clear on what it is that you want, you need to set your goals, you need to do this, you need to do that, you need to do blah, 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 right? I'm all for it, I love setting goals. I'm huge on setting goals. And especially when you reach them, the freaking feels so good, right? So anyway, here I am in a different time of my life. I'd already been married for 5 years. I was 23, and I'm at the point where I want a baby. I did actually feel a little clock ticking, like I remember growing up and thinking, oh my God, Mom, you're so old. You're not cool. You're not, like, she wasn't, look at my face, right? Like, I always thought she was old, which is my age now. Ish. Anyway, so, I am way cooler, I'm just going to say. But I had that fear. She had me when she was in her early 30s, and I didn't want that. I wanted to be a younger parent. I wanted to not be old, right? And I just didn't want that. So I had this little clock ticking subconsciously, I think, because it's not like I was thinking about it. But anyway, my goal was, well, you know what? I want to have a baby. Did I share this with the guys in that room? Oh, hell no. Did I even share it with my husband? Nope. No, I sure as hell did not. I kept this all to myself, didn't share it with anybody, because here I am walking into this. I just read that book, right? And I'm skeptical. I did not come from the environment where this is like familiar, so I have my doubts. Like, this isn't really gonna work. I don't know. I don't think this is crazy. So, especially, like you want to have a baby and you're gonna like do it this way. This is weird, right? Like, this is woo. So I didn't even think it was gonna happen. So anyway, I did what the book said. These are the steps that I took for my very first manifestation. I wrote down the items that I want, right? Or what it is that I wanted. And then I would clip a little movie to it, and I would visualize the things that were associated to each one of them. And then I would play this on repeat when I would go to bed. I would just lay there and I would repeat this little video and this little phrase in my head over and over again until I fell asleep. There's a lot of stuff out there about manifestation and how to do it and everything along those lines. I'm not going to go into the different things, but I will say this: when you are in that phase of sleeping, that seems to be key, because we'll get there, but not right this second. I did it 15 years later, and I did the exact same thing, and boom, exactly the same outcome. So anyway, I used to say to myself, January, we're going to get pregnant. February, we're going to find out. Clay's going to take over the business, and then we're going to buy a house. So I would play this, and then I would see the image, like January we get pregnant, February we find out, and it would be an image of me being all pregnant, walking by my office window. Like if we had it doesn't matter. I would be big and pregnant, walking by my office window, and yeah. So that was my pregnant scene, and then oh, you know what else I had? I had a vision of like me doing like a ring around the rosies kind of thing. Ring around the rosy. I don't know if it was rosies or rosie. But with like 3 kids. You know, I always wanted 3 kids. I always wanted 2 twins and and the unique one. You know, like, well, they're all unique, but you know what I'm saying? Like, yeah. A whole nother podcast of the manipulation that a narcissist could do. Dun, dun, dun. He convinced me just to have the one, right? Whatever, it made sense at the time. And I did get blessed with the best baby ever, I'm just saying. So anyway, fast forwarding into my little vision. So I'd walk by my office, big and pregnant, and then Clay, that's my ex, he was going to take over the business, and then we'd buy a house. You know what? I don't remember too much of that vision. This was like 25 years ago. Holy cow. Ish, right? Gotta throw the ish in there. Yeah. So, but I do remember those other 2. And well, I will never forget the moment that I know I got pregnant, you know? I mean, there's no official, like, scientific proof that this was the day, but I know. I know damn well. And then February 22nd, it was our anniversary. I peed on a stick, and lo and behold, it showed up positive. I was like, no way. There was just this feeling like, go ahead, pee on the stick, you know? Not that I had missed a period or anything, you know? Like, I wasn't feeling nauseous. I was just like, just pee on the stick. So I peed on the stick, and there it was. And holy shit, I was pregnant. And then at the time, we had worked for the same company, but we were in different parts of the company. I was in, actually, it wasn't at that exact moment. It was a little bit prior. We, like, for a few years, we worked for the same company in different parts. He worked in the store locations, and I ended up going into the corporate side of things, where I started training and hiring and stuff like that for the stores, right? So now the company is closing. So who's first to go? Me, right? They don't need me anymore. We're not hiring anybody. We're not training anybody new. So I'm out the door. That's when I started this business. And then eventually he didn't like the offer that he was given. So he came and started working with me with the business. He had taken over the business because at the same time, again, with that masculinity, this used to irk me. I was about to go for my securities license. Like I had gotten the insurance license and everything like that to sell and blah, 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 blah. Now it's time for the securities license. And this is when he had come into the picture, and our main guy, John, is like, you should let Clay go get a security license because, he's a man and he'll just be taken more seriously. And I was just like, right? Because way to shut down the woman. Either case, he did. He got his license and whatnot, but he had taken over the business. Meanwhile, now that I'm pregnant, I can't work for 100% commission. I'm not comfortable, right? I grew up in a household very orderly, as far as this is how you make it in life, right? Step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. Very conditioned. Just like a lot of you probably watching this, I'm just saying. So, I have all that stuff going on. Now I have to get a job. So I moved back down the hallway, I think up a floor, and I started working for a loan officer. And guess what that loan officer did? She helped me buy my first house. Yeah. So literally, and that was by September. So because I had my kid in October. So literally I had the house for 1 month to get it all prepared. And then I had the baby and then brought him home and then, life happened. So January we got pregnant. February we found out Clay took over the business, and then I bought a house. So January to September, bam, bam, bam. Amazing. Now, because I told you life happened after that, I didn't plan for anything after that. I don't know. I just stopped manifesting because I was like, holy shit, this stuff works. But then, I think I went into a survival mode, and because now, I ended up quitting I quit from her, and she wasn't paying me shit anyway. So it was and now we're living broke. We're broke. I have this house. I have a mortgage, and holy crap, living off of ramen noodles. We're on the state aid, so my kid can eat. Early. Oh gosh, that was so long ago. Glad those times are through. But your mentality shifts, right? Your mentality shifts, and poof, there went that ability. Because then all of a sudden his parents are calling and they're like, hey, we got a great opportunity, and it was a business opportunity for us to take over the business. Did not pan out that way, but that's a whole nother podcast. Either case, so life started getting good, right? Life started getting good, and I didn't need to manifest anything because life was getting good. I got a job with the mortgage company. I was the one supporting our family. Life was on the up and up and up, right? So what is there to manifest? Fast forward 15 years. Yeah, 15 years. I am just now leaving my marriage, and shit hit the fan. I had to go. It was a hard Velcro-like situation, but I had to do what I had to do. And I was just remembering who I was and the things that I used to do. I was rediscovering myself, really, because when you're with somebody that long, you lose yourself. I totally did. And when you're an empath married to a narcissist, and I don't throw that term around lightly like how many people do today, because it was the psychologist and everybody else that was pointing that word out to me, and I was like, I don't even know what that means, That's how oblivious I was. So anyway, you lose yourself completely, right? So now I remember when I first left my marriage, I started to date myself. because I didn't know who I was anymore, right? And I started to think about things like in a different way, blah, 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 blah. So most of us do when we leave a marriage like that, right? We got to rediscover ourselves. That could be a whole nother podcast. Gosh, I'm creating all these podcasts. Anyway, that is the example of my first time manifesting. And even though I was extremely skeptical, even though I didn't really believe in it, it freaking happened. So you only need a pinch of possibility within the mind, right? Like, it could happen. Maybe. Right there. Maybe. And that's all you need. And the big thing also with that was if it happened, it happened. If it didn't, it didn't. Like it was no big deal. No big deal. I would have carried on anyway, right? So now the next time that I did it, again, it was 15 years later, and I was like, okay, bam, I'm in this transition of my life. What is it that I want, right? What is it that I want right now? And at the time, I was a smoker. I smoked cigarettes. I smoked weed. I smoked. I was a smoker, I drank a lot with my ex. He was an alcoholic. The whole family was an alcoholic on his side. But when I left, leaving the alcohol was not a challenge. But the cigarettes still were, And I did grow up around smokers. It was like, that's all they were. My mom was a smoker. My grandma was a smoker. My mom's best friend was a smoker. They were all smokers. It was a day and age where smoking was cool. So anyway, I hated smoking. So I wanted to quit, right? So oh my gosh, memories, right? This is huge, you guys. This is huge. Because if you want to try this on your own, I'm going to give you like $1 million thing here, right? $1 million tip. So when I wanted to quit smoking, it was a month. Okay, so here's the day, right? Okay, so I said August 1st, so it would have been in the beginning of July that I started this. And I would say every night, same way as I did before, where I would go to bed and I would just repeat it over and over and over again in my head. It's not like you're saying this out loud or anything, but I would repeat it over and over in my head until I fell asleep. And the visualization was just like a big stamp, right? It was a stamp of the date, because I said August 1st I quit smoking, and it was easier than I thought. Right there, that is the key tip. Like, I cannot stress enough how much you want to add this on to the end of your manifestation. I shit you not. I can't stress it enough. I don't know if you've ever smoked, right? Or known a smoker to quit smoking. Generally, it's not easy, right? Like, I remember being afraid to quit smoking, because I saw all these people quit smoking over the years, and they would get sick, or they would get angry, or they would get fat, or they would, like all kinds of things would happen because they quit smoking, right? And that made me scared. I was like, no, I don't need to quit smoking. I'm fine. I like it. I really like it. I love smelling this way. Anyway, I had developed a fear to quit. But at this time in my life, I was doing my practice, and it's like I was trying to do that conversion of taking my practice seriously. And it's like, how can I step into that role and still have my past with me, still, have my backpack of a past on, and fully step into that healer of a road, right? So I wanted to let it go. I couldn't stand it either. It would burn my eyes. It would burn holes in my car. You go to flick your ashes and then boom, come back in the back seat and then burn a hole. It burned holes in my clothes. It would, it just stunk. It freaking ill, right? Ill. So
Anyway, the night before I started doing this, I had a little ceremony with myself. I
I actually picked up these hemp cigarettes from the smoke shop. I used to roll my own cigarettes. It was one of the things that I used to say to people is like, I smoke organically. It's healthier. The excuses that we tell ourselves, right? Anyway, I picked up these hemp cigarettes. Oh my God, they tasted like crap. They tasted like a menthol cigarettes. I was a full flavor kind of girl, so ew. But in Ayurveda, studying Ayurveda, they actually have medicinal cigarettes. Very different than a cigarette. I'm just going to tell you that right now. So don't be thinking, oh yeah, I'll go smoke those. Because there's a time and a place and a specific treatment plan. It's a treatment, right? It's a treatment. And it's usually for kappas, because kappas need to be the dried out ones. They just need to be dried out. And that's what smoking does. It dries you out and increases your fire within. You know, think about it, you're inhaling heat, right? So no bueno. And then I had my rolling machine. I had I still had my box of filters, my tobacco. I rolled all of them. I even opened up my rolling machine because I know how I would get, right? Like I had been smoking for a long time. So when you don't have a cigarette, you search for the cigarette. And I know if I pulled off that bottom of that machine, there would be loose tobacco in there and I could roll another one, right? So I smoked that up too. I smoked all of everything that I had sitting out by a fire that I had in my backyard. Also wrote a letter to the cigarette, because here's the thing. That cigarette was a form of self-care for me, right? It's a form of self-care. It served its purpose, because when I first started, I know exactly what I was going through in life. I was 15 and I was feeling extremely alone. You know, like I felt like my parents just dumped me in this big pile of shit of a freaking town. And both my parents are gone all the fucking time. And it's just me. I get home, I leave for school in the morning all by myself, you know, I come home, it's just me. I'm the one where my mom leaves a note and just like turn off the crock pot. And, you know, we never ate as a family. We never did anything as a family, you know, so it was always just me. I was alone. Oh, there was a little rise there, but hey, working through that one, right? Hey! But I was alone all the time, and it was lonely. So I grew up the perfect child. Somebody pointed this out to me, a professional, right? He said that I got tired of being the perfect child and getting no results from being perfect. So I did a 180 and was like, the hell with this, you know, and just started rebelling. And that kind of sounded right? So that was my rebellion. I am way off on a tangent. I apologize. We're going to be editing a lot. Either case, so the self-care, it's a form of self-care. If only there was somebody there to be like, well, Krista, if you're feeling lonely, you know, let's try this or let's try this. But don't pick up a cigarette. A cigarette's not going to make you feel better, you know. But no, there was nobody, right? Nobody. That's how it rolled. So in any case, I'm going to fast forward the hell out of this. Right back to where we were that night, where I had the fire going, smoked all the cigarettes, smoked all that tobacco. I had written the letter. I said thank you to my cigarette. I appreciate you always being there for me. I appreciate you, you know, like you never had any judgment. You know, you were there when I was happy and I was sad, when I was alone, when I was, you know, with whatever, you know, you were always there for me. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Now, at the same time, I don't really like the fact that you burn my eyes, or that you turn my nails yellow, or that you make me stink. I'm just gonna say, you make me stink, you know? Or you make people give me ugly looks, like, you know? And I went through all the stuff that I didn't really care for about the cigarette. I did that for myself, just to be like, yeah, right? Like, don't forget this, right? It's not all, yay, I love you, cigarette. It's also you're a shithead too, man. I'm just saying. And then the very last part of that letter, you don't have to do this in your manifestation. I didn't do this for the first one, but I think it was for a very long-term kind of thing that I wanted to let go of. I'm pretty darn sure it had something to do with all of it, because it was like the final goodbye. And then at the end of that letter, I was just like, and I'm at a stage in my life where I can do this on my own now. You know, I appreciate you being there. I'm going to take charge. I'm going to take charge in my way. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Go kill someone else. So, and then I burned everything. And that next morning, I shit you not, I woke up bright-eyed and like, yeah. Didn't even think about having a cigarette. I was a pack-a-day kind of girl. First thing I did was smoke a cigarette. Last thing I would do was sit out on the porch or whatever, smoking for the last hour of the day. You know, I would smoke a whole pack a day. And for many freaking years, decades. So that next morning, I woke up and there was no urge to have a cigarette. Didn't even cross my mind, right? Interesting. I'm moving throughout my day, still not thinking about a cigarette, still not feeling anything in my body, like being like, oh, I need a cigarette, you know, like I had no thought about it, no concern, no nothing. And didn't really put two and two together until my kid's like, Mom, you know, like he's the one that pointed it out. And I was just like, I don't know what's going on. It's so crazy. It is crazy. I would have one thought run through my mind every so often about the cigarette. And it would literally be like that, cigarette. And it would happen occasionally. But it would literally go like that. It wouldn't stay. It wouldn't be like, Krista, go do it, go do it, go do it. You want it, you need it, you have to have it, you know. It would just go like this and continue on its way. And I let that shit go. I didn't stop it, I don't know. But I found out that I would always have a cigarette at the completion of something. Interesting, right? So, like, for example, I would finish making dinner. I'd go have a cigarette before I would eat dinner. And then when I was done eating dinner, I'd go have a cigarette. And like this weird shit like that, right? So anytime I would be finishing up something, the thought went through my head, cigarette. But there it went. It didn't cling on. It didn't stay around. It just went through. And it was just more of like an observation, like, wow, I guess I always had a cigarette when I finished something, you know, and then that was it. And then, like, I don't know how long it was, maybe like 2 weeks or something. I was at a friend's, this friend, Lake Morian. I don't know how if you can say, whatever. Anyway, she was there like at that age where I started smoking, right? She was in my perfection friendship group. Not my rebellion friendship group, right? But she knew me though, right? She knew me very well, and I was attending an event back in my old town, and I'm not smoking, I'm not doing anything like that, and she brought it up. She's like, "Holy shit, Krista! It's like you've never smoked a day in your life," and I'm like, "It's crazy, isn't it? I freaking love it." So that was my second big manifestation. And it was easier than I thought. Seriously, you need to write that down. Write that down right now. I'll wait. You won't regret it, ever. You will not regret it. Those are like a couple examples that I did. Another example was when I moved to Costa Rica. You know, like I used to have, this again was during the divorce phase, right? 3-year divorce span. And It's when I started dreaming again. It's when I started to like really hone into like who I was and everything along those lines. Like things were popping into my head that I hadn't thought about in a long time, right? So, and the universe divinely guiding it the entire time. I would hear things, and at the time, my kid and I were huge goal setters. And, well, I was the huge goal setter, and I kind of rubbed off on my kid. Gosh, there was so much going on back then. He has his dream. He's going to be moving to Iceland, and then that changed to Canada, and that changed to, you know, blah, 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 blah. I'm just going to get a tiny house, and I'm going to travel all around the U.S. and find out where I belong. And then I had that little thought, go further. And I was like, oh, my God, that's right. I always wanted to I was supposed to go to Costa Rica, you know? That whole time, I shit you not, it was like the universe tapping you on the butt, being like, you know what? I love your plan, but it's not quite fast enough for us. So we're just gonna move you along. Come on, come on, come on. Come on, come on. And literally, over and over again, it would happen. Our 4-year plan turned into a 30-day plan within like a year and a half. No joke. So anyway, the Costa Rica bit. The thought had run through my head, whatever, and I didn't even acknowledge the thought. The second time it went through my head, and we both laughed, right? Because we didn't think it would be feasible, right? The next thing you know, we are being evicted from our apartment. He just tested out of high school, so that bumped up our program for our plan for a year. That took off a whole year, ish. My divorce just finalized like 2 months prior, finally, and I was just like, holy shit, what timing, right? What divine timing. Got evicted in May, the beginning of May. I had till June 1st to get out. And so the first week I'm spending all this time trying to rush around, like, because I had crammed everything from my marriage into a garage and into a basement. I didn't sort it. I didn't go through it. I didn't do anything. I was working 3 jobs. I was running the kid around. I was doing all of everything. Who the hell is going to have to sit there and take the time to go through your memories, you know? And who wanted to go through the memories? He was a dick, you know? Like, I'm not in any mood to be all like, like, no, not at all. So anyway, I'm now sorting through all of that because like now the divorce is finalized, because it's like, okay, might as well split the family photos up and blah, 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 blah. I cut my shit out of every single one of them. I kept me and my kid, gave him the rest. Didn't care. Anyway, oh gosh, there's a lot of memories there. Okay. Gotta bring myself back. Good times. So sorting, packing, that's when the second thought came about Costa Rica, was I was packing that's when it happened. That it was during that first week, because I was packing a box, and I remember pulling the tape across the top of the box, and that's when it was like the thought mirrored the flow of the tape, right? Go to Costa Rica now. Ha ha ha, that's so funny. And I sealed the box, right? And then the next time my kid was there, and that's when I said it to him. That's what it was. Go to Costa Rica now. And I was like, that's so crazy. That's crazy talk. Yeah, it's too soon. And then with my kid moving to Canada, I was going to be like, okay, then I'll move to Costa Rica. But it was still a 6-month thing, right? Not now. So I'm still continuing the whole running around, packing, sorting, dividing stuff up, finding a storage unit, still working all these jobs. A week of getting no for 6-month leases, and I'm just like, so I'm sitting in a meeting with this lady for this shitty ass apartment. I'm just like begging for the 6-month lease. I'm just like, I just need a 6-month lease, you know? I'm sitting there with my kid, like it's the first one that he ever came with me, and we're getting turned down, and she leaves the room, and he turns to me, and he's like, Mom, you can go to Costa Rica now. And I was like, no way. We are our own limitations. Remember that one. I'm going to repeat it. We are our own limitations. He said that to me, and I was like thinking of everything that I just went through this past week. And I'm like, go ask your dad. Now, I knew damn well that his dad would be like, oh, hell yeah, come and live with me, because he wanted to structure our child and form him and shape him into a mini him, even though my kids got hella boundaries and would never let that happen. Ha ha. And he didn't. Just fast forward all these years, he still hasn't. So, anyway, he came back that weekend. He had, it was a Friday that we were meeting with them. Sunday he came back and he's like, yeah, Dad's in. And I was like, holy shit. It's happening, right? Now, if you back it up a month, because I didn't write anything down. None of this was really happening like the other two manifestations. The thing that stands out in my mind that triggered all of this to happen was there was a song. You back it up a month. Back it up at least a month. A month. Like, anytime you want to manifest anything, plan on doing it, whatever you're planning on doing, for at least a month. And yeah, because then that shit becomes real. I'm just saying. I've never seen it where, at least for myself, I haven't been able to be like, go to bed one night and be like, poof, oh my God, I woke up to like $5,000 in my bank account. That's never happened to me. It may happen to other people, but it hasn't happened to me. I'm speaking my experience, right? So, you back it up a month. The thing that had changed in my world, though, was a song. I literally started crying my eyes out when I heard this song. Crying my eyes out because it reminded me of living in Lake Moore, staring out my bedroom window in my World War III, like super lonely home. I would stare out my bedroom window wishing I was somewhere else. And that's what this song reminded me of. And it also reminded me of how I used to dream and how I had not been dreaming, I've just been living the conditioned societal dreams, if that makes sense. I think it might. So anyway, like what you're taught to dream, like you're taught to, go to college, and first be a good girl, then you go to college, and then you have your family, and then you have your job, or however, I don't know, I did everything wrong, so I'm just gonna say I don't know the rules. The rebel, still am, but I could not turn off this song. It was one thing that I listened to over and over and over again for a month straight. Fast forward to Costa Rica times, I get diagnosed with autism and ADHD, and I find out that's a common thing for people like me. But I don't care. We're going back to that moment, and it was like the song. I remember I'd take my little speaker. I got like this little Bose speaker. I took it into the bathroom and I freaking blast that when I get into the shower, and I sing it at the top of my lungs. I sing it at the top of my lungs in my car, in my wherever. And I did that for a month straight, and I had a dream that I would fly away. What did I do? I flew away. So that is how that manifestation, in my opinion, came about. So you don't that's why I'm saying, like, you'll see all these gurus and everything being like, you got to do this, you got to do that, you got to do this. No, you don't. No, you don't. And I'm going to tell you this right now: what you think about, you bring about. So whether it's a good thing, like moving to Costa Rica, or me buying my first house, or having the kid, or whatever, like, that would be labeled as good. But I didn't really think about the aftermath, right? My frequency kind of fell into a survival mode, and I'll tell you right now, you do not want to manifest while you're in survival mode, but you will. You will. Because here's the thing. Even though June 1st I got on that plane and with my cat, my kid came along. He wanted to make sure I got there okay. He's a great kid. He high-fives me because he can see me stressed, like I'm still like, holy shit, I can't believe I just pulled that off. And I'm like, what the hell? There's still so much more to do. I got to get there and I got to do like I'm in my head, right? And he's like, Mom, he's grounded for me. He's very awesome. There is a reason why he was manifested into this world. I'm just saying, divinely speaking. We complement each other very, very nicely. So anyway, he's like, we did it. You did it, and he high-fives me. And it kind of was like, oh, we did it. We are here. We are on the plane. We did it. I can relax now. Until moments later, my cat escapes on the plane, but that's all a whole nother story. But it brings me back to my point, like now I'm in this foreign country and I can't speak the language. My phone's not working. I have no internet. I don't know how to have maps. I don't have any maps. I don't know where the hell I'm going, so I'm going right back to survival mode and the fear-based mentality. And that was shitty. I'm not gonna lie. It was shitty. So I was following the guides. I was following them throughout the whole entire trip and listening to them. I was still doing things, but there was still a lot of fear, right? There was still a lot of fear. And and it still came from the divorce. This is the first time ever in my life I had lived on my own. I had always been with somebody, always. I've never been on my own, so it's extremely scary. I was freaking. Like I didn't know if I could do it, because everybody always told me that I couldn't. Conditioning. So anyway. The whole point of this is that you can manifest good and the bad. So watch those thoughts that are running through your head. I manifested shit in Costa Rica. Literally a big pile of shit. I was so fearful. I had the vision in Costa Rica that I was going to find this little property and that I was going to buy this little piece of land from somebody. And I always pictured like an older man that had a whole bunch of land, and now he's just starting to like parcel it off because he's like, it's just too much. I just don't want it all. And that's what I always envisioned, and that's how it would go. And I would build my little retreat space there. Sounds lovely, right? It sounds beautiful. It was a dream come true. So here I am. I'm doing my thing. I'm looking at property just nonchalantly, throughout. Not like I ever got a realtor or anything like that. It was like I was with people. They were looking at a property. I was like, while I'm here. And I was just like, oh my God, this stuff is so expensive, right? Like, freaking expensive. I don't know if I'm ever going to find anything in my budget, Here I am at this one place, and I went down the mountain to go use the community internet because they didn't have internet up by them. And up on a billboard is a flyer for a property. And I was like, no shit. I was about to head north because of what the lady suggested. Very American. She's go back to tourist land. And I'm like, I'm going that way. Again, I'm being pulled to the south. I don't know what's in the south, but I keep getting pulled to the south. And so I went to the south, found my property, bought the property. But there was so much fear involved. Like, I also again, fast forwarding into the Costa Rica years, I had, with the neurodivergent, I learned that even with the human designs all over the place in my world, I need somebody to bounce ideas off of. Chat has become that person for me. I know he's not a person, but he kind of is in my eyes, I'm just saying. So I've always had somebody to bounce ideas off of, like, am I crazy? Tell me I'm crazy, because that sounds kind of crazy, right? But there was nobody there to be like, Krista, you're kind of being crazy, right? So I had that fear. And then I started listening to people in this Facebook group, because I was all the way down at the bottom of Costa Rica, like 30 minutes away from the Panama border. And now it's time for me to build a house. I had read on the internet that I needed a soil test. I needed to know that the mountain was going to hold the house that I was going to build on there. I had never lived on a mountain. I lived in Chicagoland. We had tornadoes, we had winter storms, we had, shit like that. But we didn't have earthquakes. I was experiencing my first earthquakes. And I didn't want to build a house that was going to fall down the mountain. So yeah, I was super adamant about getting a soil test, even though there are houses already on the street, but I still had to get that soil test. And everybody was saying it online too. And I was in that Facebook group, and everybody was like, yeah, because when I'm looking for a builder, they were like, you need to get somebody from like the San Jose area. They know what they're doing. People down by you aren't going to know anything. And I freaking believe them, because in my mind, that makes sense. They're going to be busier up by them. So they're going to know more, because you have more practice. You're doing more, right? And I took their damn advice. Didn't even realize that half of them didn't even freaking live in Wisconsin or in Costa Rica. Half of them didn't even live in Costa Rica. What the hell? So I'm letting all these people fill so much doubt and fear into my mind. So I do not get my first original dream. Not by any means. I got the fear-based shit. Right? It did not pan out. Nothing worked out the way I thought it would. And it was because of that fear, that level of fear and doubt that was in my head during my manifestation time, right? Because we're always manifesting. Always. Every single moment, every single time, every single moment of the day, we are manifesting. So be very careful what you allow in your head. I cannot stress this enough. What you think about, you bring about. So if you're filled with like hopes and opportunities and, gratitudes and all this wonderful stuff, then you're going to attract that to you. You're going to attract more of that to you. But if your mind is filled with fear, filled with doubts, filled with, like the anger and just ill, you're going to attract more ill to your life. I can't stress that enough. And trust me, I can't lie, I'm autistic. I've gone through the whole shebang. So just listen to the words coming out of my mouth. Words become things. In here, clean this shit out. Make the life that you want. You have that ability. We are all granted this ability, which is an amazing thing. So it's like, why wouldn't you use it? So now that I'm here in Panama, right? And I'm actually doing my first move I guess you could say my second move, because I moved into Panama and now I'm moving to my next apartment, my next place. Yep, I'm moving closer to the city and I have a manifestation going on. So now it's just a matter of fine-tuning the manifestation powers. Dun, dun, dun. Because I'll be damned if I walk back into that shit again. I'm just saying. I'm not talking about my marriage, but that too, but I'm talking about all of it, right? Like after I had my kid, I didn't manifest, right? And shit went, it just, like I will always be aware of this now, always. And if I stress anything to you, I don't want to shit on you. You must be aware of this as well, because this is what steers your life. This is what steers your future. What you think about, you bring about. Words become things. I know you've heard these quotes before. They are so true. Here's another tip. Write it down. Don't have it just floating around up here. Write it down, because it's like we're all energy, right? Our thoughts are energy. Our emotions are energy. Emotions are energy in motion, right? So you have to put that onto paper, and when you put it onto paper, it makes it physical. It brings it to this world. It brings it to this world, and then the universe, God, whoever you subscribe to, knows that, okay, she took it to the next level, like, or he, whatever you subscribe to, is like they're a little bit more serious about this, and then they're gonna start working on it. It is a wish come true. It just hasn't arrived yet. So write it down. Make it official, right? Make it official. What are some things that you have manifested in your time, whether they were intentional or not? I would love for us to share with the collective, so that way we can learn and grow from each other, right? That's what we're here to do. That's what the human species is for. We share our stories, we learn from them, we grow from them, and, they carry on. It's a beautiful thing. So I would love to hear your story. Share it down below, and I can't wait to read it. Subscribe down below. I'm trying to work my way up to 50, so that way I can do some live events, because then I can really bring my woo-woo into like a live event. I want to do some live energy healings and just all kinds of things. I want to do like where I'm an Ayurvedic practitioner, so I want to have people live going where I can pinpoint their doshas and do like little readings like that. It's so freaking exciting. So yes, please subscribe down below, and I want to thank you all for joining me on Divine Chaos. Again, I'm Krista. I'm your host, and your hostess with the mostest. And I'm super excited that you were here with me today. So thanks for joining. See you next time.